Hey guys, I'm Tom the Tech Chap, and this is the new Dell XPS 15 2-in-1. Now it's not a direct replacement for this, the 2017 XPS 15. The 2018 notebook refresh is coming out just after this, which to be honest is what I'm waiting for, as it will have a more powerful processor and graphics card than this. So why would you want the 2-in-1? Well, the main reason I guess is the form factor. It's got a 360-degree hinge, so you can flip the screen back and use it as a tablet for making notes or drawing, or maybe put it in stand mode for watching a movie or giving a presentation. Putting it in tent mode didn't seem to work, the screen wouldn't rotate. And also, considering it does weigh 2 kilograms, it's fairly heavy, so using it in tablet mode after a while felt a bit uncomfortable. So it's got a fancy hinge, but what else is new? Well, it's slightly thinner than before. There's a new maglev keyboard, which now feels just like the MacBook Pro's keyboard. And also, like Apple's latest laptops, we're now limited to just USB-C ports. We've got 4 of them, along with a microSD card reader. So you're probably going to have to invest in some adapters, although Dell do bundle one USB-A to C cable in the box, which is handy. They've also made the already super thin Infinity Edge bezel around the screen even smaller. The 4K touchscreen display I've got here is even more color accurate than before, now covering 100% sRGB and also 100% Adobe RGB color gamuts, which is seriously impressive. They've moved the webcam, which now supports Windows Hello, to the center of the lower bezel, although of course it's still looking up your nose. But probably the biggest change, after the 360 hinge, is the internal hardware, the specs. The 2-in-1 comes with Intel's 8th generation quad-core processors, specifically the i7-8705G in this one I've got here, along with 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of SSD storage. But it's that G suffix on the processor name which is really important. Essentially, it's a new brand of Intel chips that come with an AMD RX VEGA 870 graphics card built in, which replaces the NVIDIA GTX 1050 in last year's XPS 15. Having the processor and the graphics built into just one chip saves space and power, which is ideal for this new form factor. And Dell say we should expect similar performance to the current 2017 XPS 15 notebook. So we're looking at more of a side grade than an upgrade in terms of raw performance. But in reality, well, it's a bit of a mixed bag. In Cinebench, it was a big step up. The 2-in-1 was 53% faster for OpenGL graphics and 25% faster in CPU-intensive tasks. But for some reason, that performance boost didn't seem to transfer to real-world use, like playing games or exporting 4K video. In Far Cry 5, with high settings at 1080p, the 2-in-1 averaged 30 FPS, whereas last year's XPS 15 scored 37 FPS. Both are more than playable though, especially if you drop the settings to medium, you'll get a solid 40 FPS on both. Although if you play in the screen's native 4K, well, you'll barely get a stable 10 FPS. Moving on to Adobe Premiere Pro, a 5-minute 4K project took 16 minutes and 55 seconds to render on the 2-in-1, versus just 10 minutes and 6 seconds on the XPS 15 notebook. That's a big difference, and as a full-time video producer myself, for that reason alone, I think I'll be sticking with my 2017 XPS 15 and waiting for the 2018 refresh before I upgrade. But that's not to say the 2-in-1 isn't powerful enough. It can pretty comfortably handle 1080p gaming, and it breezes through all but the most intensive video editing tasks. But overall, thanks to the super fast NVMe SSD, using it for everyday tasks on the desktop, watching Netflix, doing office work, or just having loads of Chrome tabs open, it all feels snappy and responsive. I did notice though that the top of the keyboard got quite warm when playing games. Not uncomfortably so, but I did notice it. The fan can also get quite loud, and sometimes whirs up even when I'm just opening Chrome. It's not too bad overall. I'm not really any louder than last year's XPS, but it's still noticeable. Although I can't say I noticed any coil whine, it was just the fan. What is a little disappointing though is the battery life. It's got a smaller 6-cell 75 watt-hour battery, and when paired with this 4K screen, well, you only get about 5 or 6 hours of real-world use. 1 hour of YouTube at 50% brightness used 23% of the battery, which is quite a lot. But if battery life is really important to you, you could always opt for the Full HD screen. It's still a glossy touchscreen, but you'll get closer to 9 hours with that. So while the battery life may not be great, pretty much all is forgiven when I look at that 4K screen. It's incredible. As I say, it covers 100% of the sRGB and Adobe RGB color gamuts. This is as professionally color accurate as mainstream laptops come. So photo and video editors will love it, especially as you can adjust color profiles through Dell software. It is still glossy, so can be quite reflective in bright light, but a new anti-reflective coating means it's not quite as bad as last year's 4K XPS 15. The screen's super sharp, offers vibrant and brilliantly accurate colors. Whether you're working, playing games, or watching movies, you're gonna love it. Although, if you are watching stuff, a pair of headphones are a good shout, as the built-in stereo speakers are pretty weak and a bit rubbish if I'm honest. Even worse, the right speaker on my model is way louder than the left one, which is quite annoying, to the point where you literally can't hear anything from the left side unless you put your ear right to it. It might just be my sample, but either way, I definitely suggest using headphones. So the speakers are a bit crap, but what I do like is the keyboard and the touchpad. Dell's new maglev keys, which have a lot less travel to fit in the new thinner chassis, feel a lot like the butterfly mechanism keys you get on the MacBook Pro. It's more clacky than the spongy feel of the older XPS laptops, but I like it. The chiclet keys are well spaced and it feels good to type on. But I have to say the backlight is pretty pathetic. The Precision touchpad is largely unchanged, but it's still one of the best ones on a Windows laptop. It's smooth glass, it feels precise, and has a light but reassuring click to it. And I often find myself using both the touchpad and the touchscreen depending on what I'm doing. As for the webcam, well, as you can see, not much has changed, at least in terms of placement. We've got a 720p video, which looks okay. It's a little bit noisy up here. I am in decent light, so quality isn't great. But obviously the biggest issue with the XPS lineup is its placement. The webcam is still on the bottom bezel so that we can get that nice infinity edge bezel around the edge of the screen. So that's a bit annoying, but there is a trick, because this being a 2-in-1 laptop means we can actually just flip the laptop right round, use it in tent mode, and then automatically the webcam flips over, and now we have a much better placement. It's now relatively on the top bezel. I have obviously lost the keyboard, so it's not as easy to take notes, but if you're Skyping family and friends, then this is a much better way and quite a clever solution to be able to use the webcam. Just spin it around. It's 2-in-1 laptop. But the other big change is the port selection. The full-size SD card reader has been replaced with a micro SD card reader, which is pretty useless to me, to be honest. And we're also now limited to just USB-C ports. On the plus side though, it means that you can now charge your phone with the laptop's USB-C charger, and also 2 of the USB-C ports are Thunderbolt 3 with 4 PCIe lanes. So you can always hook it up to an external graphics dock if you want to do more serious gaming or graphically intensive tasks. So how much is all this going to cost you? Well, the 2-in-1 starts at a whopping £1,700 here in the UK, but just $1,300 in the US, which is a bit weird, and makes it much better value for money in the States, and a little bit harder to recommend here. There's a lot to like though. The screen is fantastic, I like the design, it's got a great keyboard and touchpad, and it offers solid performance. But at the same time, you are compromising on quite a lot just to get that hinge so you can use it in tablet or stand mode. It's more expensive, has worse battery, and considering the 2018 XPS 15 notebook refresh is right around the corner, if not already out when you watch this, well for me, that's the one I'd go for. But if you've got your heart set on a fancy flippy 2-in-1 screen, then this is probably the best one out there for all-round performance and quality. So is that 360 hinge important to you, and would you buy this? Let me know in the comments below. I really hope you enjoyed the video and you found it useful. If it was, do click that like and subscribe button below, and I'll see you guys next time right here on the Tech Chap. Thanks for watching.